Welcome everyone to CJC's online platform, and also welcome to Your Health and You. Remember to like, most importantly, share and subscribe. Your Health and You is a production of the Central Jamaica Conference Health Ministries Department and is designed to present on health related topics by sharing evidence based information and naturopathic remedies. We are here every Thursday at 7:15, but every Thursday is a little different. So on first Thursdays, we're doing general health. So everybody, your mother, your sister, your uncle, your daughter, they can join and listen on general health tips. On second Thursdays, we have men's health. On third Thursdays, we're focusing on women's health. And on fourth Thursdays, like today, we're focusing on children's health. And finally, on fifth Thursdays, we're focusing on mental health. Now, remember, this program is for educational and informational purposes only, and it doesn't constitute providing medical advice or professional services. So, before embarking on any health related information presented in this series, I'm encouraging you to seek advice and counsel from a doctor or a healthcare professional. So, in today's program, we're going to be speaking about precocious puberty. Precocious puberty. I hope you would have heard it a long time ago and be interested in what it is. And if you Googled before now, I must give you your kudos for getting ahead of the game. So, precocious puberty is like a precursor. Let me give you a precursor. It's when children's bodies begin to change into adult bodies too soon. So, we're going to be speaking with an expert on this topic to find out, why is this so bad? How do we treat it? What are the signs? All of this and more. But before we dive into our topic, let us enjoy a reading from the book Counsels on Health by Ellen G. White.
Section 1. The World's Need.
Needs of the rich. And while working for the poor, we should give attention also to the rich, whose souls are equally precious in the sight of God. Christ worked for all who would hear his word. He sought not only the publican and the outcast, but the rich and cultured Pharisee, the Jewish nobleman, and the Roman ruler. The wealthy man needs to be labored for in the love and fear of God. Too often he trusts in his riches and feels not his danger. The worldly possessions which the Lord has entrusted to men are often a source of great temptation. Thousands are thus led into sinful indulgences that confirm them in habits of intemperance and vice. Among the wretched victims of want and sin are found many who were once in possession of wealth. Men of different vocations and different stations in life have been overcome by the pollutions of the world, by the use of strong drink, by indulgence in the lusts of the flesh, and have fallen under temptation. While these fallen ones excite our pity and demand our help, should not some attention be given also to those who have not yet descended to these depths, but who are setting their feet in the same path? There are thousands occupying positions of honor and usefulness who are indulging habits that mean ruin to soul and body. Should not the most earnest effort be made to enlighten them? Ministers of the gospel, statesmen, authors, men of wealth and talent, men of vast business capacity and power for usefulness, are in deadly peril because they do not see the necessity of strict temperance in all things. They need to have their attention called to the principles of temperance, not in a narrow or arbitrary way, but in the light of God's great purpose for humanity. Could the principles of true temperance be thus brought before them, There are very many of the higher classes who would recognize their value and give them a hearty acceptance.
Let us pray. Great God and our Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to see and witness the blessings of another day. And as we have come in this moment, dear God, to learn a little bit more about puberty, we pray that those who are listening, those who are watching, that they'll be encouraged and empowered and also be edified as we go through this very important information about this stage of life. We thank you for this platform and this opportunity, dear God, to be able to witness. And we pray that after being here, we can declare it was good for us to be here. It was good for us to hear these words. We thank you so much for your blessings. We pray that you continue to be with the leadership of the Health Ministries Department in Central Jamaica Conference and continue, dear God, to be with all of our children right across Central Jamaica Conference and the parents and the guardians that have this great responsibility of taking care of their needs. Thank you so much, dear God, for hearing and answering our prayers. Thank you so much for blessing us, and we pray for a good sitting today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Celebrations, nutrition. There's no life without food. Food contains all the nutrients essential for health. Yet sometimes we fail to remind ourselves of this fact and end up eating unhealthy food or not enough healthy food. But shouldn't we try our best to celebrate every meal with healthful food choices? In order to better select the food you eat, you must first understand how nutrition works. Our bodies get nutrients from food through the process of digestion. The nutrients your body needs include carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and more. Consuming the right balance of these nutrients is fundamental to a healthy life. So that leads back to the topic of food choices. When selecting foods to eat, some factors you should take into account are variety, quality, balance, moderation, and avoidance. When you evaluate your food choices based on sound principles, you increase your chances of feeding your body food that will really make you healthier. A healthful diet increases your quality of life. Celebrate nutrition by appropriately enjoying the many products of the earth that God has given to you. Choose a balanced plant-based diet and enjoy a healthier and more abundant life.
Thank you so much, Pastor Scott, for setting us off on the right tone to talk about precocious puberty. Now, there are two things that I think you probably didn't know about precocious puberty, is that it's 10 times more common in girls than in boys. There's something there, and I have a question to ask our very special guest about why that is so. Also, the earlier a girl starts menstruation is the higher risk of breast cancer. We're going to be letting you know what the signs are to look out for to let you know if your loved one is going through precocious puberty. Our special guest is Dr. Curtis A. Price. He is the president of the Pediatric Association of Jamaica, and we're very, very, very happy to have him on here tonight to speak to us on this very important topic. He's also a pediatric consultant at the Maypen Hospital and the manager of Gilead Pediatrics Center in Maypen, Clarendon. He has a dual passion for primary and secondary pediatric care, having completed an undergraduate and postgraduate studies at the University of the West Indies in pediatrics. Having presented at various conferences locally and internationally on various pediatric and lifestyle topics, he enjoys serving as an associate lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Caribbean School of Medicinal Sciences. He's also a lecturer at the Windsor School and All-American Institute for Medical Sciences. So as you can hear, Dr. Price comes with a wealth of knowledge. He is qualified to be speaking to us on this topic, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say. But just a quick reminder, as we're having the discussion, if you have any question at all, just type it in the chat and we'll have it addressed, because we want to make sure that we're taking care of your health and you. We're going to be going on a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Price.
Researchers have found that at ages 9 and 11, more than 90% of children met the recommended levels of moderate to vigorous physical activity recommended for children. By age 15, however, only 31% met the recommended level on weekdays and 17% met the recommended level on weekends. The researchers estimated that physical activity declined by about 40 minutes per day each year. That's a fact. But there's hope. Even walking for as few as 15 minutes a day provides health benefits. If your children do not exercise often, encourage family activities like bike riding, hiking, playing ball, or swimming. Planning active family events will keep your entire family fit and healthy.
Dr. Price, are you here with us? Welcome to the show.
I am. Thank you very much, Janelle. It's a pleasure for me to be
So
here.
you're ready. I'm ready. We know that you know what you're talking about, but we need to learn about precocious puberty. But when I first heard about the topic, I was wondering, why the adjective? Why are we putting precocious in front of puberty? But as I was reading and researching, I realized that it's something different. But let us start from the background and the basics. Let us understand what puberty is before we understand what precocious puberty is. So could you break down what is puberty?
All right. So puberty, in its simplest term, refers to the period during which an individual reaches sexual maturity and becomes capable of reproduction. I mean, it's in its simplest sense, that's basically what puberty is.
Okay.
I was going to go into precocious puberty, but you can go ahead.
So I want, you said it's a period. What period does it typically happen in our lifetime?
Well, with respect to age, it usually occurs in girls at an earlier stage than boys. So girls about 8, to 13, and boys a little later. So the lower limit tends to be 8 in girls and 9 in boys. So girls tend to be a little, earlier than the boys.
Okay, so how does precocious puberty differ from normal puberty?
Okay, so for precocious puberty, the individual is basically going into puberty before the age that they're expected to.
Mm-hmm.
So in its simplest term, that's what happens. So you have a younger child who really is not expected to undergo these pubertal changes, who is entering puberty.
Okay, so what are the signs that we should be looking out for? Because when you say young, because puberty would start at age 8, correct? That's like regular normal puberty. Are we looking at
Yes,
age
for
8?
girls. Yeah,
For girls.
and that's a lower limit. So on average, it's about 11.
Okay, so is the age 8 where the precocious part comes in?
Exactly. So the 8 is like the cutoff point. So if you're entering puberty now below 8, a 6 and a 7, and in some jurisdiction, that lower limit is a little variable, because what we find is that Black girls enter puberty earlier than Caucasian, and other races. So Blacks tend to be a little quicker, a little earlier.
I buy into that 100%, because I have had personal experiences where I would have mistaken a young girl in primary school for a big woman or someone in high school. So I can attest to seeing signs of that. But what are early signs that we can look out for in our loved ones of precocious puberty?
So basically, we just need to look at the signs of puberty. So in girls, the earliest sign of puberty is a breast bud, what we refer to as a breast bud. So I mean, in the office, in all pediatric offices, we usually see the parents rushing in with these little girls. Oh my Lord, my daughter has a lump in her breast, and they're freaking out. You calm them down and you tell them she is entering puberty. But with precocious puberty now, we're having a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, very young children presenting, with these signs of puberty. So, the breast bud in girls is the earliest stage. For boys, is the testicular development. So it's the enlarging of his testicles. But of course, other signs of puberty, which include, hair development, whether or not it be axillary hair, meaning under the arm, pubic hair development, enlarging of the testicles, just the normal pubertal changes occurring at an earlier stage than normal.
So, in the Jamaican vernacular, what could have caused this? What could have caused a child to go into puberty so early?
Yeah. But the thing is that what we have noticed, especially when we look at various countries who have been monitoring age-related changes with respect to puberty, what we have found is that for every 10 years, the age at which children are entering puberty is getting earlier and earlier by about 4 months. All right. So in the early 19th century, the average age was probably about 14. And over the years, I remember when I was in medical school, the average was about 13, probably, right? But what we're finding now is that with each decade, we have to be dropping, the age for normal pubertal occurrence to a lower and a lower age, to the point that we're at 8 and 9 now. And some individuals are even pushing to go as low as 7. That is a grade 1 or grade 2 student.
Precisely.
Right. So the main thing that is driving the whole issue of precocious puberty is obesity. So what we are finding is that with advancing period and people are having better nutrition and increased exposure, to increase calories, unhealthy foods, increase high sugar drinks and that sort of thing. The obesity crisis is the main driver for precocious puberty. Of course, stress is related. What I found very interesting is that they did a research where they found that girls who did not grow up with their father, their biological father, living in the home were 20 times more likely going into precocious puberty than, the opposite. A girl who did not have her father growing in the home is 20 times more likely developing precocious puberty than a girl who had her father inside. So what they found is that stress factors, so versus in low socioeconomic setting, children who undergo, high stress environment, on top of the fact that, the obesity crisis is really pushing these young girls, especially, maturing much earlier. Of course, there are other factors, which, I don't know if you want me to go into them now, but there are things inside the foods. A lot of times we push those things, a little more than the obesity thing, which is the main one. But you have, stuff inside the foods, what we call endocrine disruptors, things inside the environment, stuff that we use, insecticides, hormones that we inject animals with to increase their girth and their meat, capacity and that sort of thing. drink things that we use to prepare bottles. So your plastic bottles contain some of them a lot of estrogen containing stuff, which contribute significantly to the whole issue of precocious puberty. There are a lot
Okay, so
of other causes.
it's the introduction of these things filled with all of these chemicals that cause this early hormonal release in our boys and girls.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the main cause, right, the
Mhm.
main cause that has been identified, and we see it in our offices, the children who tend to be overweight, whether it be mildly, they have increased BMIs, those are the ones that tend. So the food is driving. I mean, obesity, because fat is a organ. Sometimes we don't think of fat being an organ, but fat produces hormones such as leptin, and fat produces estrogen. And that is why with breast cancer, if you are obese, first of all, obesity drives breast cancer, because a lot of breast cancers are estrogen sensitive, and estrogen drives these cancer. And on top of it, if you lose the weight, your risk of having breast cancer and that sort of thing is significantly reduced. So, fat is a hormone that really pushes and stimulates the endocrine system, stimulate the ovaries, and pushes these children into early pubertal changes.
Okay, I really would like to go into the additional causes that you have, but before we do, as it relates to the absence of the father in the home being another cause for precocious puberty, we have a question relating to that coming from Dr. Kemar TJ Douglas. He's asking, why would that be? Is it that the father made being in the home made it less stressful?
Right. So, a lot of these things, they can't necessarily, they haven't really tested, or, it's difficult to kind of test or cone in. But what they postulate is, a father being in the home, tend to produce, and this is not necessarily right across the board, but they think it's related to the stress factor. There are some other postulates where they are, promoting certain hormonal emissions and that sort of thing. But the main thing that, we think is related to the whole issue of stress, which can really act as an endocrine disruptor, stress itself.
Okay. So, what are a few other causes that you're able to pinpoint?
All right. So as we said, we mentioned some things that we call endocrine disruptors, BPA.
Okay.
A lot of BPA, bisphenol, they're found in a lot of packaging, products. So a lot of your chips and, and that sort of thing. If you look on the packaging, they will indicate to you that, this thing contain BPA. When I was doing a little research earlier, a lot of the producers of these packaging stuff, they're not obligated to indicate that BPA is inside the products. I learned that recently. Right. So, but if you see on the package BPA free, it means that it's not there. But if it's not, included, meaning that terminology, we have no BPA in it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't contain, BPA. Some of the stuff in some of the non-stick pans, the PFAs and the PFOAs, some of them actually act as endocrine disruptors. Some hair products contains estrogen, what you call them, substitutes, that they have stuff in them that look and act like estrogen, can actually be absorbed inside the body, and become endocrine disruptors. Of course, we talk about a high intake of just sugary juices that, promotes insulin resistance, and insulin itself actually is an endocrine disruptor. All right. So if you have insulin resistance and high insulin levels, in your body, it acts as a disruptor. High sugar promotes inflammation inside the body. And what we found is that, the research have shown that, sugar promotes inflammation, promotes the release of substances called cytokines, which act centrally in the brain and disrupt the normal, functioning of the brain and the adrenal and the hormonal axis. And this one is very interesting, the gut microbiome. So, this has become very popular. You look a little surprised, Janelle.
No, because what do you mean gut microbiome? That sounds like something
Right,
that lives in me. What I
exactly. So,
present.
listen, Janelle, the number of bacteria that lives inside of your gut is more than the number of cells inside your body. All right, so just absorb that a little. So what they have found, the past probably 10 to 15 years is that those bacteria that lives inside your gut is not just sitting there and having a happy time. They are now recognizing that it is also an organ, right? So the bacteria lining your gut, they produce hormones. So what they found is that, Ellen G. White always speaks of us mixing food and that sort of thing. So you shouldn't mix fruits with vegetables and stuff, because it disrupts your microbiome. You mean in the bacteria inside your gut. And when those are disrupted, it actually disrupt a lot of hormonal and, changes inside the brain. Depression. They have found that some individuals who are chronically depressed is related to bad microbiome, and it's also applicable to endocrine dysfunction. So if we're not eating properly, we're not feeding those microbiome, with what they're supposed to be fed with, a high vegetable, type of food, lots of fruits and vegetable mixed in the appropriate way, it can cause your microbiome to go off, right? Some of us who are very offensive, stuff coming out of us and directly related to bad microbiome. So we need to monitor and feed those microbiomes properly. It can really preserve a lot of what we have to do with our health.
And all that's going through my head is that there needs to be a revisiting of the health message so that we're able to watch what we eat, because a lot of the things that you were mentioning, it made me feel almost hopeless, because all of these things are prevalent in what I'm interacting with on a daily basis. And so we're going to be talking solutions soon, but I do want to go into the signs and the symptoms, and also how it affects the individual when they're going into precocious puberty. Because when I started puberty, it was a confusing time for me. It was a painful time for me. So I just cannot wrap my head around a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, even 8-year-old going through precocious puberty. So let's first start off with the individual experience. How does that affect the child? What have you seen in your profession, in your field?
The fact of the matter is that puberty is a very stressful period for individuals who are at the appropriate age. So can you imagine a child who is 5 years younger going through, that sort of situation? Not to mention the parents,
Oh gosh.
I mean, I've had parents come into my office in tears, have to be counseling and supporting and, and that sort of thing. So it's a very stressful situation for the whole family. That said, in these children who go through puberty at an early stage are at higher risk of depression, anxiety, sexual abuse, early, sexual exposure, suicide. You know, um, what we find is that they mature physically, and a lot of them, their brain also matures a little beyond their peers. So they tend to be in a grade 2, but then they're chronologically a grade 5. They can't relate to their, the little peers who just want to play dolly house and that sort of thing
I can
because
imagine.
yeah, so they go through a very stressful period. Of course, precocious puberty is associated with early height gain. So these children, and note this carefully, these children, they begin a growth spurt. So they grow quickly, right? So they're in grade 2 and they're way above the height of, their little peers. But the problem is that their bone shut down earlier. So even though they grow early, they end up being shorter than their peers because the time that they
Okay.
have for growth is shorter because the hormones kind of just push the bone, grow quickly, but shut it down quickly. Right? So they end up being shorter. What I'm an advocate for short because I'm a proud short man, right? But I know how short is, especially for the guys, the little boys in fifth form, and they're at the
Mhm.
shoulder of their peers and that sort of thing. So even though they end up being, they grow quickly, they end up being shorter. So a lot of psychological issues, a lot of physical issues, a lot of sexual abuse issues, a lot of abuse issues, full stop, and of course, later in life, these children, when they become adults, they're at higher risk for breast cancer, and cardiovascular disease.
So it sounds like something that parents should not only be vigilant about, but slightly but concerned about as well. So what are, I guess you said the signs of precocious puberty would just be the signs of puberty. So how is it treated?
Yeah. Antonella, if you would allow me to just mention, so a lot of parents might be, online and just, saying, but I have my 9-month old and she's having breast development. So just to say that there are some normal variants, right? To, pseudo puberty. Okay. So we have a situation called premature thelarchy, where these children, they develop breast at 9 months to 2 years and nothing is wrong with them, right? So it's not a true precocious puberty. They have these pseudo changes where, for some reasons, we haven't identified the exact reason, but this child is 9 months old and she has a breast, right? I mean, real breast. It's not that she's obese or anything, but nothing else is wrong, right? She
Mhm.
doesn't have any hair development and that sort of thing, and it settles down and disappears, by say 4 or 5, and that child is fine. That is okay. The pediatrician just need to monitor that child, make sure nothing else is going on, and they usually do not need extensive investigations. We have some of them that develop hair under the arm, and body odor, Jamaican same ripe, right? Or green, and a lot of them going through these pseudo periods, and nothing major is wrong with them. They won't progress to the overt puberty, and those children are fine. So just to be aware, of those what we call variants.
Okay.
And I forgot the question that you asked.
So when precocious puberty is detected, how is it treated? Can it be treated?
Yeah. So basically, we approach the child by taking a thorough history, doing, appropriate investigations and referrals as necessary. So we ask the parents about, when did it start? If there are any other changes, we ask about if the child is having a menses, and that sort of thing. I should have mentioned earlier that there are two types of precocious puberty, one that we call central precocious puberty and one that we call peripheral. So basically the central one starts in the brain. So something in the brain, or, in the brain is driving the process. And with the peripheral one, something in the rest of the body is driving the process, right? So
Okay.
the child might have a testicular tumor, right? And in boys, the risk of them having a problem is much higher than a girl. So if a boy presents with precocious puberty act right away. They have probably an 80% risk of having a tumor, of having something wrong with them compared to a girl, right? So so we ask them, and when we examine, we check for this testicular size, any lumps in the testes, any abdominal masses, because there are certain tumors that can produce hormones that force, the child into early puberty.
Okay. All right. So let us talk about solutions now. Can this be prevented?
As I said before, obesity is the primary one that is driving the process, mixed with all the other things that we mentioned, those environmental stuff, those hormonal stuff, and that sort of thing. So one of the important thing, as we promote in our church, the New Start program, we emphasize your diet, your exercise, and start early with the children. Personally, I recommend no juice for children under 1 year, right? And over 1 year, it's up to you. Children don't need to drink juices. Give them water and let them get used to water. I have children in my office that refuse juice, right? Because Dr. Price tell me early that I shouldn't drink juice, and they got used to the taste of water, and they literally hate juice, right? So just adjusting the diet, reducing the body mass index, and that sort of thing by itself is a significant means of reducing early onset puberty. Of course, there are other things that we can do with respect to try exposing the children to natural foods, what you call those things that they don't use any chemicals and spray, and that sort of things. They tend to be a little more expensive, but in the long run, it's better. And of course, I encourage, our people to plant a garden. You understand? And people might say, oh, but we don't have no space and whatever. You don't need any space. You understand? We have, there are creative ways. My wife has a setup where she do a backyard garden. She's from St. Elizabeth, so it's not like I should be doing it, but she's the one, And she built a little thing, and it has little rails across it, and she hung up the cabbage and the broccoli and the whatever.
That sounds like hydroponics. Is this hydroponics?
It's not,
or like
it's
vertical gardening.
Hydroponics was something similar to it. You understand? Simple. She used her hose and water them. You understand? And you get her, her nice healthy vegetables. So just stuff like that we can do to really reduce the exposure. And there are things that we don't have any control over. Can you drive out and you inhale chemicals in the environment, but do what you can do, to reduce the risk.
There's a common thing that you mentioned throughout all of the questions I've been asking, and that has to deal with parents coming in. And I wonder, do you find that after a certain age, parents stop bringing their children to you or to the pediatrician to do regular checkups? Because I do believe that that is also a preventative measure to make sure that your child is progressing the way that they should.
You are absolutely right, and we do recommend, in the first 2 years of life, we expect the children to come in at 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. And then after that, we see them yearly. All right. So you're absolutely right. Because that is another, preventative strategy. Because when, you're probably going to ask me this question later. I'm not sure if I should answer it now. But yeah, that's a means of, picking up things early, right? Because as I said, we have had a child who had her menses at, I think 7, and she had a brain tumor. You understand? That was the cause for her precocious puberty, right? So different things inside the brain, right? So it's not just a simple, oh, she's going to go into puberty and she's going to there's some serious causes of precocious puberty that need to. So when we talk to the parents, we ask them about headache. Is the child having a visual disturbance? Is the child blood pressure elevated when you check it? Is the child having a subtle weakness over his body? Because there are tumors and, different things inside the brain, whether or not it's benign tumors or cancerous growth, that can actually trigger, that can be the first sign of a precocious puberty.
Wow. Viewers at home, I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're listening. If you're parents now or if you're parents to be, this is very important because we see how our lifestyle can affect our children, how it can even affect us or has affected us. And it's very important for you to do what you can, do what you must in order to make sure that your child is not going through precocious puberty. Now, you say we're winding down because we have a naturopath that we're going to be asking some questions and some recommendations as to how to live, I guess, a cleaner life, because we are talking about all of the things that we are interacting with on a daily basis that can cause the early onset of puberty. So back to that thing you wanted to say, but you thought I was going to ask you a question. What was it?
I just wanted to say that, sometimes the parents might think that, oh, the child has gone into puberty and, that's it. What am I going to do about it? But there are things that we can do. We usually, if a child starts puberty at 6, she's going to have her period at 8. Right? Can you imagine an 8-year-old going through the whole process of having a period?
No, I cannot.
And trust me, Janelle, we're seeing it, over and over again. I mean, it's like an implosion in the office. Children just coming in with these issues. So what there are things that we can do. So we usually do an X-ray of the child's risk to begin with. We usually do some hormonal studies on them, to kind of determine the cause and, if it indeed is. And there are some medication that we can give to actually slow down or arrest the process so that the child can, experience a normal childhood, a normal height, velocity, and of course the psychological well-being that comes with just going through a normal childhood experience.
Folks at home, Dr. Curtis A. Price. If you need a pediatrician, call him. We will put you in touch with him if you need to go that far, if you need to go roundabout, because he knows what he's talking about, offering very sage advice to us, because this is something I didn't even think I needed to know about. This is something I took advantage of the fact that I would see a young girl on the street or a young man on the street and say, oh yeah, man, definitely 13 years old and not in grade 1. But thank you so much for giving us your wisdom, giving us your medical advice. If there's anything you want to say before I throw to our second break, let me know that now is the time.
Yeah, no, just thanking you, and thank I keep on calling him Douglas, Pastor Dr. Douglas, for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
This was a very enlightening discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Price, for being here. And viewers at home, do not go anywhere. We're going to be back after this break with your naturopathic recommendations. So feel free to ask me your questions. We are going to have a very quick discussion before we wrap up. See you on the other side of this break.
A study in the Archives of General Psychiatry, August 2008, finds that children who do not get enough sleep are more likely to be overweight than their well-rested peers. The researchers determined that a 1-hour reduction in daily REM sleep nearly tripled a child's odds for overweight and obesity. That's a fact. But there's hope. Bring back the bedtime story, prayers, and tuck-in time. Establishing a regular bedtime routine can ensure that your child gets adequate sleep and help to reduce their risk for obesity. So, for the little ones, more sleep equals better fit.
you're watching Your Health and You, welcome. This is the not welcome, but welcome back. This is the fourth Thursday of the month. So we're focusing on children's health, and our topic tonight is precocious puberty. I just wrapped a very informative presentation with Dr. Price, who spoke to us about the signs, the symptoms, and ways to treat precocious puberty. If you're just joining us, precocious puberty is basically early onset puberty. And we're not talking early like 11, we're talking early like 5, 6, 7, 8, all of those. So we're going to be speaking with a naturopath. Dr. Lammy, are you hearing this? I am shook.
I am hearing and I'm seeing, and so it was such a beautiful presentation. Really
It
wonderful.
was.
And
It really was.
thanks. But you know something, I was reading in the book, Ministry of Healing, and there was a beautiful statement that said, "Disease never comes without a cause." It said the way is prepared and disease invited by disregard of the laws of health. And most time it said that the transgression come because of the consequence come because of the transgression of the parents. All right. So so when we look at this thing happening to our children, it's not something that came out of the blue. The way it's been created, and now they are faced with this condition, this sickness that is upon them. Dr. Price mentioned a few of the things already, so I don't want to get back into them. But one of the things that I really, really want us to look at, which is so serious, when we were children, now you know that's a long time ago, but when we were children, one of the things that we used to do is spend time outdoors. Exercise is so very crucial for the overall development of our children. It's good for the circulation. It's good for throwing off toxins, and toxins is one of the main things that is driving this. And you know, it's getting into like an epidemic now, because more and more young children are coming with this condition. All right. So don't we have to be doing something to stop the flow? All right. I look at some research, and one of two things that stood out in my mind. It said that diets that were high in meat, in dairy foods, and processed plant food have been linked to early puberty. You understand? So if our children, I know our parents like to go to the fast food joints because you know we don't have the time to cook and prepare things, and then these meats that we are using, they are packed with hormones, so they become endocrine disruptors that Dr. Price had mentioned before. So parents, it is so good to cook. Give your children. Most of the children, they don't know cook food. They're used to cereals and fast foods and sweet foods and those kind of things. And it is affecting them so badly. We have to do something about it. No, I look at another research, and it said, I was so amazed by it. Well, I know it happens because it is in the Ministry of Healing. But it said that 70% of children who were going through early puberty, they found out that they had deficiency in vitamin D.
Oh no, they're stuck inside.
They are stuck inside. Remember, first time you play football outside, even as girls, we play football outside. We make carts and all kind of things, and you're on the outside. But now the children play football inside, and all they use is just their two fingers. So they are not getting the exercise, and they are not getting sunlight. So parents, we are encouraging you, because the children cannot do the things for themselves. It is the parents who have to encourage them to go outside, even for 30 minutes. And you know something, it is not only for the vitamin D, which is a pre-hormone. If vitamin D is not there, the other hormones won't work. So you need that vitamin D, but also the natural light. The natural sunlight is good for your circadian rhythm. And therefore, it's good.
Whoa, you said what? The rhythm of what? Break
Yeah,
that down for me, Doc.
So there's circadian rhythm, which is actually how the body works. The body's ability to move from one stage of metabolic processes to another. That's
Okay.
what it is really. And it's getting fuel from the sunlight. So can you imagine if you're always inside and you're not getting exposed to the natural light, what will happen? This
Mm.
it is so very important for hormone regulation. So you're going to find now that there is always this lack of hormone development in its proper sphere because we are not being exposed to light. The children now, they are not getting that sunlight. All right. And there was another research that showed, I heard Doc mention it also, that the ages back in the 1800s, it was 16. In the 1920s, it came down to 14. Then it came down to 12. And here now, we have research that's saying younger than 8 or younger. Babies, babies,
Literal babies.
babies. And then, and the diet has a lot to do with it. Even like for mothers who breastfeed, most time they have to be busy. They can't stay home to breastfeed. So they give the children the bottles younger, or they substitute with the bottle or alternate with the bottles. And most of these um, formulas that they get, they're from dairy food, and the dairy food that they're taking, it is high in estrogen and other kind of hormones inside of the animals. And these now pass on to our children. So there are some things we can avoid, like cheese and milk, dairy milk, and we love the ice cream, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes. So most of these things, and because the younger the children are exposed to these kind of lifestyle, then the easier it is for them to end up with the endocrine disruptors. All right. And pesticide is just killing us. The pesticide, the fungicide, the herbicide, it's like it become the norm now. First time it's natural food that was planted. But no, this is not happening. So we are suffering, we are feeling the effect. And I'm saying to parents, as much as lie with you, get the natural food and give to your children. So I'll leave three things with you to do. Get natural food. What is natural food? Teach your children how to eat tomatoes and cucumbers and fruits, not in their natural state. God gave us banana, right? Banana. We give our children banana chips. You understand? God give us something like jelly water. We said no. We're going to give them box juice and bag juice and whatever. And this high content of sugar, it's hurting the children. Ensure that your children get at least 30 minutes outdoor. Just carry them outside. Play with them on the outside. Be there that they can get the sunlight. Take their fingers off the gadgets for a while. And the exposure of that light is also abnormal. Okay, so let them get exposure to the natural light. If they're not in a position to get the vitamin D from the sunlight, then I think they should talk to their even like Dr. Price and talk about the vitamin D supplement that can be given, right? And I'm talking to the parents because the poor children can't do this. It's the parents who have to ensure that the children are taken care of. Another thing I must tell you this one: sleep.
ooh.
Sleep. The children are going to bed when they feel like going to bed. Children ought to have a bedtime. And parents should set it. So most of the time, because the children have these gadgets, what they do, they carry them with them in bed, and they will play with them until very late, and then they go to sleep. Now, the body's ability to correct itself, to throw off the toxins that are in the body, cannot happen because they're going to bed too late. All right. So let me mention just four of the things that we do know that can help to take toxin from the body. All right. There are natural remedies, and parents, you can think about that. One of the most powerful, and small children can take it, but talk to your doctor about it, is activated charcoal. I don't think you can get it any better than that. once in a while, just a little, depends on the age. This can be very good and very helpful, but talk to your pediatrician how you can do that. Another one is bentonite clay, and there are two nice beautiful vegetables that God has blessed us with that are excellent for removing toxin from the body. One of them is cilantro. You know cilantro, right?
I do know cilantro.
Yes, beautiful. And you can take some of it too. Excellent. And another one is chlorella. Chlorella is a sea vegetable. These are very good for helping to remove toxins from the body. So you can prepare them as vegetables and ensure that it is included in a child's diet. All right. So look at the sleep, look at the exercise, look at the sunlight, look at the diet. Move away from the fast food, move away from the processed food. Make sure that the children are eating from the family pot. Help them to make better choice. Anything that is made with sugar is going to affect them. All right. These are some of the things that we can do to help our children to get get rid of these things. It's not a death sentence. Once you start doing the right thing, then the hormones can be rebalanced. That's what the Lord has promised to us in his word. And if we become obedient parents and start doing better where our children are concerned, you'll find that their bodies start responding better. All right.
I'm here taking notes. I'm taking notes so that I can do some of these things in my own life. So when I have children, introducing them to this lifestyle isn't going to be so difficult because it is a learning curve. But we do have some questions before we wrap up. I want to bring Dr. Price back into the conversation and pose a question that we have in the chat. This is from Dr. Elaine Bryan. Oh no, this is from Elaine Bryan to Dr. Price, but I also want to hear what you have to say, Dr. Lamy. So she says, from about 14 years old, she's noticed a voice change in her grandson, and then a whole heap of bumps were on his face and on his back. So she understands that the voice change is a sign of puberty, but are the bumps as a result of eating too much fatty foods?
So I wait on Dr. Price first.
Right. So, as a part of the secondary sexual characteristics that we spoke about earlier, so we talk about the primary sexual characteristic, which is really the sex organs, and then the secondary sexual characteristics is those things that come on as a result of the hormonal changes inside the body. So, as a part of the normal hormonal change that your grandson, is going through is the production of testosterone and testosterone-like substances in the body, such as, what we call dihydroepiandrosterone and stuff like those. So what they do is that during puberty, some of us more than others, we go through a process where we develop acne. All right. So the hormones basically drives acne, for formation. Some people have more severe type of presentation because of dietary factors and stuff like that. But the primary cause of acne in puberty is related to the hormonal influence on the sebaceous gland.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have a second question coming from Jewel Francis. This person is asking, can puberty trigger migraines in children?
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't think that children can have migraines. It's if you have a child who is, going through precocious puberty. I'm not sure if she's talking specifically about precocious or just general puberty. But say precocious puberty and you're having a headache, don't ascribe it to migraine. Remember, we spoke about there are certain tumors and stuff that can occur inside the brain that can cause headache and that can stimulate, early onset puberty. So if your child is having that and having a headache, get it checked out. But of course, most, females know that the menses, having a menses and stuff can be a trigger, for migraine.
And also, doc, they have the diet. Sometimes they have these things like that, the cheese and the milk that tend to they develop allergies.
Yes,
And
yes.
right, they don't associate it with what is happening to the children. So parents need to look into that also. Another thing that I find, wheat. I see that a number of children, they're having a severe reaction to wheat. All right. And after removing it from the diet, then you see that they tend to react better. Yeah.
Okay. Lots of helpful tidbits. Those are our two questions that were posed. Thank you to our viewing audience for engaging with us, picking our brains, and hopefully these are some helpful solutions for you. So we're going to wrap up now. Dr. Lamy, any final words before I close out the program?
Yes, I want to say to our parents that remember that disease never come without a cause. And we have to look at what we are doing, learn about how the body can take care of itself, and that as long as there is anything going on that's not normal in the system, it can be remedied. And in his mercies, God has provided all the remedy that you need. In Psalm 104, verse 14, he said that he has given us the remedies that we need so that man can go about his labor. So we just have to explore a little and use what God has blessed us with. Take a little time, learn about them, make the changes, and you will reap the blessing. God bless you.
Very, very well said. I couldn't say any better myself. Thank you so much to our medical guests, Dr. Curtis A. Price, pediatrician, and Dr. Joan Lamy, our naturopathic expert. I hope all of you took something from tonight's program. I am going to go into a lifestyle change immediately after the stream is over. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember, we're going to be back here next week, Thursday, with bipolar disorder. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. You're going to have to be here to learn more about it and learn how to cope with it or have it treated or look out for the signs. So, my final words to you come from 3 John 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. This has been Your Health and You. We'll see you next week, Thursday at 7:15. Have a great one.